Have you ever felt like you're living, but not truly alive? You wake up, go through the motions, chase goals, win and lose. But somewhere inside you sense something missing. The noise of the world keeps you busy, yet your soul feels silent. This is where philosophy begins. Not in books or temples, but in the quiet moments when you finally ask, who am I? What am I living for? In this episode, we return to the timeless wisdom of Socrates and the Stoics, a path that begins with self-examination, matures through reason, and blossoms into inner peace. You don't need wealth, fame, or luck to be free. You only need the courage to look inward to know yourself, to live rightly, and to rise above the chaos of a restless world. This is not motivation. This is transformation. Welcome to the philosophy that rebuilds the soul. This is not merely a saying. It is a declaration of war against unconscious existence. Imagine a sailor on a ship without a rudder, tossed wherever the waves dictate. He might land on a paradise island or be shattered upon the reefs. That is the unexamined life. Most of us live this way, carried along by the waves of social expectation, the winds of fleeting emotion, and the undercurrents of unconscious habit. Socrates, in his Apology, chose death rather than abandon this examination. Why? Because living to him and to us as Stoics is not merely breathing, eating, and existing. That is a privilege reserved for animals and plants. The privilege and burden of humanity is the possession of logos, reason. To live without using reason to examine one's purpose, values, and actions is to abdicate the very thing that makes us human. A life not worth living does not mean it is worthless, but that it has not achieved its potential value. It is a seed that never sprouts, an instrument never played. In Stoicism, this examination is systemized into a daily practice. Seneca wrote of reviewing his day each evening. What fault did I correct today? What temptation did I resist? In what way have I become better? This is the Socratic inquiry put into practice. We do not examine to torture ourselves over the past. The past is outside our control. We examine in order to dissect judgments, to review the events of the day, and separate them from our judgments about them. It rained is a fact. It was a terrible day is a judgment. And that is where suffering begins. Refine virtue. Did we act with justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom? Or did we act from fear, greed, or arrogance? Prepare for tomorrow. By understanding the errors in our reason today, we strengthen our inner citadel for tomorrow. We are taught to do, not to think. Society rewards action results and busyness. Beware the barrenness of a busy life. Another of his sayings echoes here. We fill our schedules to avoid confronting the emptiness within. Only when a crisis strikes, a lost job, the death of a loved one, a confrontation with illness, are we forced to pause. And in that terrifying silence, we ask ourselves for the first time, who am I? What am I living for? Do not wait for the storm. Begin tonight. Take 10 minutes before sleep. Put down the phone. Simply sit and ask, where did my reason lead me today? And where did my emotions drag me? At first it will be uncomfortable, but it is the discomfort of a muscle growing. Persist. This is the most important work you will ever do. This is not merely a saying. It is a declaration of war against unconscious existence. Imagine a sailor on a ship without a rudder, tossed wherever the waves dictate. He might land on a paradise island or be shattered upon the reefs. That is the unexamined life. Most of us live this way, carried along by the waves of social expectation, the winds of fleeting emotion, and the undercurrents of unconscious habit. Socrates, in his Apology, chose death rather than abandon this examination. Why? Because living to him and to us as Stoics is not merely breathing, eating, and existing. That is a privilege reserved for animals and plants. The privilege and burden of humanity is the possession of logos, reason. To live without using reason to examine one's purpose, values, and actions is to abdicate the very thing that makes us human. A life not worth living does not mean it is worthless, but that it has not achieved its potential value. It is a seed that never sprouts, an instrument never played. In Stoicism, this examination is systemized into a daily practice. Seneca wrote of reviewing his day each evening. What fault did I correct today? What temptation did I resist? In what way have I become better? This is the Socratic inquiry put into practice. We do not examine to torture ourselves over the past. The past is outside our control. We examine in order to dissect judgments, to review the events of the day and separate them from our judgments about them. It rained is a fact. It was a terrible day is a judgment. And that is where suffering begins. Refine virtue. Did we act with justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom? Or did we act from fear, greed, or arrogance? Prepare for tomorrow. By understanding the errors in our reason today, we strengthen our inner citadel for tomorrow. We are taught to do, not to think. Society rewards action results and busyness. Beware the barrenness of a busy life. Another of his sayings echoes here. We fill our schedules to avoid confronting the emptiness within. Only when a crisis strikes, a lost job, the death of a loved one, a confrontation with illness, are we forced to pause. And in that terrifying silence, we ask ourselves for the first time, who am I? What am I living for? Do not wait for the storm. Begin tonight. Take 10 minutes before sleep. Put down the phone. Simply sit and ask, where did my reason lead me today? And where did my emotions drag me? At first it will be uncomfortable, but it is the discomfort of a muscle growing. Persist. This is the most important work you will ever do. If the first saying is the action to examine, then this saying is the objective to know oneself. The inscription on the gate of the temple of Apollo at Delphi, "Know thyself," was Socrates' guiding principle. Socrates was famous for traversing Athens and demonstrating that no one truly knew what they claimed to know. The general did not know what courage was. The politician did not know what justice was, but the greatest ignorance he exposed was not about the external world, but about themselves. To know thyself does not mean knowing your favorite food or your zodiac sign. Those are trivial details. To know thyself means knowing your limits. This is the famous Socratic wisdom. I know that I know nothing. To know thyself is to draw the precise border of your own understanding. Knowing your nature, to recognize that you are not your body, not your job, not your reputation. You are a rational mind. And knowing your contradictions, to see clearly the gap between the values you profess to hold and your actual behavior. For a Stoic, to know thyself is the core practice of Prohairesis, the faculty of choice or will. Epictetus, a slave who became a great philosopher, taught that all human happiness lies in knowing precisely what belongs to us and what does not. What is not you, your body, it can fall ill, your property, it can be taken, your reputation, it depends on others. They are externals. What is you? Only one thing. Your capacity to choose how you respond to everything. Your judgments, your intentions, your decisions. To know thyself is to know that you are that faculty of choice. Everything else is just context, the stage. You cannot control the play, but you have absolute control over how you perform your role. We spend the first half of our lives building an ego based on externals. I am a successful lawyer. I am a mother. I am a well-known person, and we identify ourselves with these roles. And then life as it does will strip those things away. We are fired. The children grow up and leave, the reputation fades, and we fall into an existential crisis because we realize we have built our entire identity on quicksand. Only then, in the collapse of the false ego, do we begin to ask, without these things, who am I? You do not need to wait for loss to find yourself. Practice detachment now. When someone praises you, tell yourself, they are praising my work and external. My virtue remains the same. When someone insults you, tell yourself, they are attacking my reputation and external. My reason remains secure. To know thyself is to build an inner fortress that no external army can breach. This saying is the bridge between the inner world, knowing thyself, and the outer world, action. Socrates' Athens was filled with sophists, teachers of the art of rhetoric. They taught how to appear wise, appear virtuous, appear persuasive, in order to gain power and money. They were masters of reputation. Socrates viewed this as the greatest corruption of the soul. He argued it was futile to spend a lifetime building a beautiful facade, while the structure of the house within was rotting. The energy you pour into seeming is energy stolen from being. Be as you wish to seem is a call for unity. It demands integrity, a word which means whole or undivided. A person of integrity is one whose thoughts, words, and actions are in perfect alignment. In Stoicism, we call this living in accordance with logos, universal reason, and physis, natural law. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The subtle difference lies here. A person focused on seeming will ask, how can I make people think I am courageous? They will act bravely when an audience is present. A person focused on being will ask, what is the courageous action in this situation? They will act bravely even if no one is watching. To a Stoic, reputation is an indifferent. It is entirely outside our control. You can be the most virtuous person on earth and still be misunderstood or slandered, like Socrates himself. Therefore, the only goal is to be virtuous. If a good reputation follows, that is a bonus. If not, it has no bearing on our inner worth or our tranquility. We live in a culture of facade. Social media is a vast machine designed to amplify seeming and ignore being. We edit our photos, exaggerate our achievements, and hide our failures. We become personal brand managers instead of authentic human beings. The anxiety so rampant in modern society is precisely the gap between who we seem to be and who we know we actually are. It is the constant fear that one day someone will discover the imposter behind the mask. Only when the exhaustion of this performance becomes unbearable do we crave authenticity. And it is then we realize Socrates' lesson. Today, pick one aspect where you are seeming. Perhaps you are seeming to know everything at work, when in reality, you are confused. Experiment with authenticity. Say, I am not sure about that. I need to look into it further. At first, it may feel like weakness, but you will notice two things. One, your internal fear vanishes. The tension of performing is released. Two, people, the ones who matter, will respect you more, not for your knowledge, but for your honesty. Stop building your reputation. Start building your character. Because when the storm hits, only character is a true refuge. You must examine your life, the action. The goal of examination is to know thyself, the objective. The result of knowing thyself is to be your true self, the outcome. Without self-examination, you are sleepwalking. Without knowing thyself, you are a leaf in the wind. Without authenticity, you are a tired actor. These are the first and most important lessons. We learn them too late because they require silence in a noisy world, humility in an arrogant world, and honesty in a world of masks. Take time to reflect deeply on this foundation. Examine it, know it, and be it. This is the Socratic paradox, and it is the gateway to all philosophy. This saying is not an ode to ignorance. It is a direct assault on hubris, the greatest enemy of learning. The person who thinks they know everything is a full and sealed container. Nothing can be added. They cannot learn, cannot grow, cannot change. Their mind is closed. Conversely, the person who knows they know nothing is an empty and open vessel. They are a perpetual student, curious and receptive. Knowing that you know nothing is an advanced state of awareness. It means you distinguish between opinion doxa and knowledge episteme. Most of what we know is actually just opinion, assumption, or inherited belief. You recognize the vastness of the universe and the finitude of the human mind. You have achieved intellectual humility. For the Stoic, knowing that you know nothing is the first step in mastering ascent, sunkathesis. All-day life throws impressions, fantasiae, at us. My boss yelled at me. I am stuck in traffic. I am sick. Our untrained mind immediately assents to an accompanying judgment. This is terrible. Stoic wisdom begins with the recognition, I do not know if this is terrible. Epictetus would say, traffic is traffic, sickness is sickness. They are merely events. Your judgment that they are terrible is an opinion, something you add, and it is very likely wrong. By admitting, I do not know, we create a space between the event and our reaction. In that space, we have freedom. We can choose not to suffer. Our entire educational and social system is built upon appearing to know. We receive high marks for having the right answers, promotions for appearing confident and decisive. I don't know is treated as a sign of weakness. We spend the first half of our lives building an ego based on knowing, and it takes one or several catastrophic failures when all our knowledge collapses and fails to save us before we are forced to confront the stark truth we truly do not know very much. Practice saying, "I do not know," or "I need to reflect on that further." The liberation when you do, you no longer carry the burden of appearing perfect. You are free to be curious. This humility is not weakness. It is strength. It is the foundation upon which true wisdom is built. If knowing you know nothing is the attitude, then questioning everything is the method. Socrates was the gadfly of Athens. His job was to sting the lazy horse that was the Athenian state to wake it up. The Socratic method, elenchus, is a systematic process of dismantling. He did not teach, he asked questions. And through questioning, he exposed the contradictions, the logical fallacies, and the unfounded assumptions within his opponent's beliefs. Conventional wisdom is society's consensus on how things work. For example, to be happy, you must be rich. Reputation is paramount. Retirement is the ultimate goal. Socrates and every Stoic who followed him looked at these truths and asked, "Is this true?" This is the core of Stoic logic and physics. We must become the sentry at the gate of our mind. When the emotion of fear arises, ask, "This fear, where does it come from? Is it telling me the truth? Or just a false judgment? Are death, poverty, or shame truly evil? Or are they merely indifference that my reason can handle?" Society worships wealth, beauty, and power. The Stoic questions, do these things help me become more courageous, just, or wise? No. Then why should I sacrifice virtue, the only good to pursue them, the indifference? Questioning is the philosopher's scalpel. It separates fact from opinion and what we control from what we do not, because it is exhausting and socially dangerous. Humans are herd creatures. To go against conventional wisdom means to separate oneself from the herd. It makes friends, family, and colleagues uncomfortable. It is far easier to agree and go along. We fear being seen as odd, negative, or troublesome. Only when the pain of living an inauthentic life, living by another's rules, becomes greater than the fear of isolation, do we begin to question. Start small. When you find yourself scrolling social media and feeling envious, question, is that picture the entire truth? Is their life truly perfect? And even if it is, what bearing does that have on my own path? Become a scientist of your own thoughts. Be curious about them. Do not accept anything as obvious. Your reason is the ultimate judge. Use it. This is a direct consequence of questioning everything. Human history is replete with examples of the majority being catastrophically wrong: slavery, the burning of scientists, genocides, financial bubbles. The crowd does not act based on reason, it acts based on emotion, fear, greed, fanaticism, and anger. It was the opinion of the majority in Athens that sentenced Socrates to death for corrupting the youth, which is to say, teaching them to question. Truth is not a beauty contest or an election. A thing is right because it aligns with reason and nature, not because many people believe it. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, perhaps the most powerful man in the world of his time, constantly reminded himself to ignore both the praise and the criticism of the crowd. He wrote in his Meditations, "Is an emerald diminished in value if no one praises it? Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you always, ever you will ever dig." And the Stoic seeks internal validation whether one's actions align with virtue. The crowd seeks external validation, applause, likes, promotions. We are biologically programmed to seek social proof. In prehistoric times, to be ostracized from the herd meant death. That primal fear remains in us. If everyone is running, I must also run. In modern times, this transforms into the fear of missing out, FOMO, peer pressure, and unconscious conformity. We buy things we do not need, work jobs we hate to impress people we do not like. Only in old age, when we realize how much time and energy we wasted chasing social proof, do we recognize the only opinion that truly matters is that of our own inner reason. The next time you find yourself swept up in a trend or a popular belief, pause. Ask, do I believe this because it is rational or because everyone around me believes it? Cultivate the courage to stand alone with reason. The path to virtue is often a lonely one, but it is the only path to tranquility. This saying redefines the true purpose of the entire learning process. Most of us treat education as filling a vessel, collecting information, memorizing facts, accumulating degrees. The result is that we have many vessels filled to the brim with information, but do not know what to do with it. Socrates and Plutarch, who paraphrased this, saw education as a process of activation from within. The flame is innate reason, the capacity for critical thinking, curiosity, the student's own desire for virtue. A great teacher is not one who gives answers. They are one who asks the right questions, so the student can discover the answers for themselves. They do not transmit knowledge. They inspire a thirst for wisdom. This is precisely the Stoic model of education. Epictetus did not teach his students maxims. He constantly challenged, questioned,
and force them to apply the principles to real life.
He would ask, "You say you want tranquility, but why are you angry that your servant broke your jug? Was that jug within your control? Is your tranquility so fragile?" The goal was not to create parrots repeating the teachings of Zeno or Cleanthes. The goal was to kindle the flame so that each student could become a philosopher in their own right, a sentry for their own mind. Education is the training of the will, prohairesis, not the training of the memory. Our education system is designed like a vessel-filling factory. It was designed for the industrial age to create compliant workers who know how to memorize and follow instructions. It rewards obedience, not critical inquiry. We graduate, our vessel is full, and we step into the real world. And when the first crisis hits a career failure, a romantic breakup, we realize that no fact in that vessel tells us how to live. We are full of information, but possess no wisdom.
You must be the one to kindle the flame for yourself. Read not to collect information, but to enter into a dialogue with the author. Right journaling is how you dialogue with yourself. Do not just learn about philosophy, practice it. Apply one idea today. When you feel insulted, use it as an opportunity to kindle the flame. This is a chance to practice separating event from judgment. That is true education. This is the initial spark, even before the flame is kindled. Before you can know that you know nothing, and before you can question everything, you must be able to see the world as if for the first time. Wonder thaumazein is the state of pure perception before it is clouded by labels, prejudices, and familiarity. Children possess this naturally. They look at a leaf and truly see it. They ask why relentlessly. We adults have lost this capacity. We look at a tree and our mind immediately applies the label tree, and the process of seeing ends. We become weary, jaded, and know-it-alls. Socrates and Plato said that philosophy begins here from the ability to be overwhelmed by the miracle of existence itself. Why is there something rather than nothing? What is a human being? Although Stoicism is known for its rigorous logic, it is built upon a foundation of profound wonder at the cosmos. The Stoics did not see the universe as a random chaos. They saw it as a cosmos, a single, ordered, rational and interconnected system, permeated by the logos, universal reason. Marcus Aurelius constantly expressed amazement at the complexity of the human body, the movement of the stars, the cooperation of bees. Constantly reflect on the connection of all things in the universe. This wonder is not just a pleasant emotion, it is a moral compass. When you feel you are part of a great and rational whole, your petty individual anxieties, reputation money, dissolve. We are taught to be practical.
wonder is dismissed as childish or unrealistic. We are caught in the grind of work bills and obligations. Efficiency kills wonder. We replace curiosity with certainty. We fill every silence with noise. TV phones, podcasts. We do not allow ourselves the chance to be bored and to wonder. Only when a major event occurs, stargazing in the wilderness, the birth of a child, are we shaken awake and realize how miraculous this world is. Today, practice wonder. Choose an ordinary object. Your hand, a glass of water, an ant. Look at it for 60 seconds and pretend you are from another planet and have never seen it. Contemplate its design, its function, its mere existence. Allow yourself not to know. Saying 4. Question its existence. Saying 5. Do this often. This is how you keep your mind fresh, open, and ready for wisdom. Begin with wonder and openness to see the world. 2. This leads to humility. I know that I know nothing. 3. Humility fosters questioning. Why is this so? Questioning liberates you from the majority. I must find out for myself. All of this is the flame of true education, a self-operating, self-correcting reason. This is one of the most shocking and difficult declarations in all of Western philosophy. The world operates on a completely opposite logic. Do whatever it takes to win. It is better to harm others than to be harmed. We are taught to protect what is ours, our property, our reputation, our status at all costs. Socrates says no. When you commit an injustice, you deceive, steal, or harm, what are you doing? You are admitting that an external thing, money, power, is more important than your internal integrity. You are corrupting the only thing that is truly yours, your soul, your reason, your character, called psyche or logos. You have poisoned yourself with your own hand. When you suffer an injustice, what is truly harmed? Perhaps your wallet, your body, or your reputation. But according to Socrates and the Stoics, these are indifferents. They are not you. The one who commits injustice has harmed themselves at the deepest level. The victim is only harmed on the surface. This is the central doctrine of Stoicism. Epictetus would ask, someone has stolen your horse. Have they stolen your will? Have they stolen your faculty of choice? Have they stolen your virtue? No. They cannot. The thief in the act of stealing has lost their own virtue. Justice. You, in being robbed, have an opportunity to practice virtue, temperance, tranquility, forgiveness. So who has truly suffered a loss?
The perpetrator of injustice is the true loser in the game of life, even if they win materially. They have defiled their inner citadel because we are obsessed with external results. We are programmed to believe that physical pain or financial loss is the worst thing. We are not taught to recognize the quiet, corrosive pain of a compromised soul. We spend our lives building external walls, asset status, and allow the inner fortress character to rot only after making countless compromises, countless petty injustices to get ahead. Do we realize we have become the type of person we once despised? We have gained the world, but lost ourselves. This grants an unparalleled strength. It means that no one on earth can truly harm you. They can imprison your body, as they did to Socrates. They can take your life, but they cannot touch you, your choice, your reason, your character. You are inviolable. Protect the inner citadel. Let them take the externals, they do not matter. Never trade your integrity, not for the entire world. If the previous saying spoke of a specific act, this one speaks of the entire trajectory of a life. We are obsessed with the quantity of life. We want to live longer, have more experiences, earn more money, have more friends. We take supplements, exercise, optimize our schedules, all to prolong existence, living. Socrates said that is the wrong goal. A long life lived with cowardice, greed, and ignorance is a prolonged tragedy. A short life lived with courage, justice, and wisdom like his own is a masterpiece. Quality matters more than quantity. And quality, living rightly, is defined solely by virtue. This is precisely the Stoic goal, living according to nature, which is to say, living according to reason and virtue. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, could have had everything, yet, and he constantly reminded himself in his meditations, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This is not a pessimistic thought.
It is an urgent call for quality. If this were your last act, would it be a just one? If this were your last word, would it be a true one? We do not control how long we live. That is an indifferent. We only control how we live in each moment. We live in waiting mode. We say, I will be a good father after I finish this project. I will be kinder after I earn enough money. I will pursue my passions after I retire. We trade living rightly in the present for living a promised future. We mortgage our virtue in exchange for a future that may never arrive. And then when we grow old, we look back and realize we have existed for 70 years, but have not lived a single day. We were so busy preparing for life that we forgot to live.
You have the absolute power to live rightly right now. In this very moment, you need no money, no power, no permission from anyone. You only need your choice. The choice to be patient when provoked. The choice to be honest when a lie is easier. The choice to be focused instead of distracted. That is living rightly. It is not a finish line in the future. It is the way you walk in the present. If living rightly is the health of the soul, then envy is one of its worst diseases. Socrates used a very powerful medical image. Ulcer, helkos. What is an ulcer? It is an open wound, self-corroding, causing pain from within. And if left untreated, it will become infected and destroy the entire body. Envy is exactly like this. It is the pain we inflict upon ourselves, upon seeing the good fortune of others. It is a twofold disease. It causes you suffering. You feel bitter, angry, powerless. 2, it is a lack of virtue. You are wishing ill upon another, or at least resentful of their good. It is a rot from within. To a Stoic, envy is impossible. If you have correct judgments, it is a fundamental logical error. Why you only envy what you consider good. If you envy your neighbor's new car, it is because you have falsely judged that a car is a good. If you envy your colleague's promotion, it is because you have falsely judged that status is a good.
And a true Stoic knows that cars and status are indifferents. They are neither good nor bad. They have nothing to do with happiness. Eudaimonia, the only good is virtue. And you cannot envy another's virtue. You can only admire it and emulate it. You cannot want to take away their virtue. You only want to develop your own. Because our entire culture is built on comparison. Advertising, social media, even the ranking systems in school, all are vast machines designed to manufacture envy. They tell you you are not enough. You need this to be happy. We spend our lives chasing the shadows of others, trying to fill that ulcer with externals, money, fame. But that ulcer cannot be healed from the outside. It only festers more. Only when we are exhausted from the chase, or after having acquired everything and still feeling empty, do we realize the problem was not what they had, but what we valued. And the cure for the ulcer of envy is to change one's judgments and to practice gratitude. Change the judgment. When the feeling of envy arises, identify it. Tell yourself, I am falsely judging and indifferent to be good. The only good is my virtue, and that is entirely within my control. Chapter 2, Gratitude. Shift your focus from what you lack to what you have.
What do you have? You have reason. You have the faculty of choice. You have the present moment. These are priceless assets, all you need to live a great life. Stop looking at another's path. Focus on walking your own path with integrity.
Better to suffer injustice defines your boundary. It protects your soul from the only true evil, your own unvirtuous actions. 2. Living rightly defines your goal. It aims your compass toward virtue, not mere existence. 3. Envy is the ulcer, diagnoses the disease. It warns you of the danger of valuing the wrong things. These are difficult lessons. They require you to go against almost everything the world teaches you, but they are the only path to unshakable tranquility and authentic joy. This is the great inversion of values. The world screams at us, improve your bank account and you will be happy. Philosophy whispers, improve your soul's psyche, for that is happiness. What does improve the soul mean? It is not a vague concept. It means making the soul stronger, more rational, and more virtuous. It is the training of the mind to become more just, more courageous, more temperate, and more wise. What is material wealth? It is the quintessential representative of externals. It is not evil. The Stoics are not ascetics. Wealth is simply material. It is indifferent. It cannot make you a better or worse person. It is merely a tool. The core issue is prioritization. Your time and energy are finite. Every hour you spend worrying, scheming, and obsessing over wealth is an hour stolen from the only work that matters, the improvement of the soul. This is the dichotomy of control applied to finance. Material wealth is largely outside your control. The market crashes, a partner deceives, a natural disaster strikes. Your soul's state, your judgments, your choices is 100% within your control. A wise person invests all their energy into what they completely control, the soul, and uses only appropriate effort for those things they do not wealth. The unwise person does the opposite. They invest all their emotion into wealth, which they do not control, and neglect the soul, which they do, and thus they live a life of perpetual anxiety and fear. Because wealth is visible, you can count it, you can show it off. Society celebrates it. No one throws a party to celebrate you in a private moment, choosing patience over anger. We are so dazzled by the symbols of a good life, cars, houses, that we mistake them for the good life itself. Only after acquiring them and realizing the emptiness remains intact do we begin to search elsewhere within. You are a soul, a rational mind. You have a body. You use wealth. Never confuse the user you with the tools, body, and wealth. Invest in the user. Cultivate the soul. Everything else will fall into its proper order. This is the twin of the previous saying. Wealth and reputation are the two greatest sirens to crash onto the rocks. Character ethos. This is who you truly are when no one is watching. It is the summation of your choices, values, and judgments. It is your prohairesis moral will, and it is completely within your control. Reputation doxa. This is what others think of you. It is a collection of their opinions, rumors, projections, and misunderstandings. It is completely outside your control. The great paradox lies here. 1. The more a person pursues reputation, the more they destroy their character. They become false, flattering, a crowd pleaser, and lose authenticity. 2. The more a person focuses on character, the more likely they are, though unintentionally, to gain a good reputation. Socrates is the perfect example. He did not care for reputation, and as a result, he was sentenced to death by the crowd. But 2,400 years later, his character shines like a lighthouse, while the reputation of his accusers is merely a stain on history. This is a central teaching of Epictetus. He stated bluntly, things not up to us include property, reputation. To stake your happiness and tranquility on reputation, on the fickle thoughts in other people's heads, is an act of madness. It is to voluntarily hand the keys to your inner citadel to the chaotic mob outside. You have made yourself a slave to their opinions. Marcus Aurelius constantly asked himself, why do I care what these people think when they cannot even respect their own thoughts? We are social creatures. The fear of rejection is deeply ingrained in the subconscious. Reputation feels like survival. In the modern world of social media, this addiction to reputation is amplified millions of times. We become actors constantly performing our lives instead of living them. The burden of this performance becomes unbearable only when exhausted burnout or experiencing a crisis, being slandered, do we realize the emptiness of this game and crave to be ourselves. Let them talk. Let them praise. Let them criticize. It is just sound in the air. It cannot touch you. Your job is not to manage their thoughts. Your job is to be good, that is all. If the previous two sayings were the goal, soul, character, then this saying is the path, the process of seeking. This saying redefines the good life itself. The good life, eudaimonia, is not a finish line, not a static state, not a certificate of completion that you receive. The good life is the process of seeking to become better. It is a verb, not a noun. The joy is not found in having become perfect. The joy is found in striving to become perfect.
This is an immense liberation. It means you do not need to be a perfect Stoic sage. You only need to be a Procopton, one who is making progress. The effort to be virtuous is virtue. Seneca wrote extensively about the one who is progressing. We are not sages, but neither are we the unconscious mob. We are those on the path. Every day you have hundreds of opportunities to seek to become better. When stuck in traffic, an opportunity to practice patience. When criticized, an opportunity to practice humility. When tired, an opportunity to practice discipline. Every time you choose to respond with reason instead of instinct, anger, fear, laziness, you are living better. You are becoming better. That is the victory. We live in an all or nothing culture. If I cannot be perfect, I would rather do nothing. We go on a diet, make one small mistake, and then give up completely. We try to meditate, our mind wanders, and we conclude, I cannot do this. We obsess over the result, becoming better, and despise the process, seeking. Only after decades of repeating this euphoria, then failure cycle, do we realize that slow, imperfect, but persistent progress is the only path. Do not be discouraged by your stumbles. A stumble is proof that you are walking, not standing still. The one who tries to become better and fails is infinitely more noble than the one who never tries. Love the process. Your seeking is the reward. This saying posits two paths, two entirely opposing models of living. The way of the world, crushing others. This is the logic of the zero-sum game. For me to win, you must lose. For me to get that piece of the pie, you must lose yours. This is a life based on competition, conflict, manipulation, and fear. The way of the philosopher, improving oneself. This is the logic of the infinite game. My victory is the improvement of my own character. This is the game you play against the self of yesterday. Socrates said the second path is noblest. This is obvious as it aligns with virtue, but he also said it is easiest. Why? Because crushing others is an incredibly complex and exhausting task. You must worry about rivals, scheme, fear, reprisal, manage alliances, all of which are outside your control. Improving oneself is simple. It involves only you and your choices. It is 100% within your control. This is the essence of oikeiosis, affinity, and sympatheia, the connection of all things. The Stoics view all humanity as a single body. Crushing others is as absurd as the left hand declaring war on the right. It is an act of self-destruction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee."
Improving oneself, becoming more just, kinder, is the best contribution you can make to the hive. A virtuous person automatically uplifts the entire community around them. We are raised on competition. From school to the workplace, we are ranked, compared, and forced to fight for finite resources, grades, promotions, attention. We are drawn into the zero-sum game from a very young age. We spend decades climbing the ladder, crushing or being crushed along the way. Only when standing at the top or having fallen to the bottom do we realize we were playing the wrong game. We won a race no one cared about, and along the way we harmed others and our own soul. Refuse to play the zero-sum game. Step out of it. Redefine victory. A good day is not a day you surpassed someone else. A good day is a day you were more rational, more patient, and more just than you were yesterday. This is a game you can win every single day. And in this game, when you win, everyone around you wins too. 1. Prioritize the soul over wealth. 2. Focus on character over reputation. 3. Cherish the process of seeking, not just the result. 4. Play the infinite game. Improving oneself, not the finite game crushing others. Now we must face an unavoidable question. We still must live in a world filled with material things. We must eat, be clothed, and transact. How do we interact with wealth without being corrupted by it? How do we live in this world, but not of it? The world teaches us to manage our assets. Socrates and the Stoics teach us to manage our desires. This is the fundamental difference, and it is the key to freedom. This saying is a complete inversion of the world's equation. Let us divide this into 2 parts. Part 1. Virtue does not come from wealth. This is relatively easy to understand. Money in itself is a neutral tool. It is just minted metal or numbers on a screen. It cannot make a coward courageous. It cannot make a deceiver just. In fact, wealth is often a harsh test of virtue, and most fail. Wealth tends to amplify who you truly are. If you are a generous person, wealth gives you the means to be more generous. If you are a stingy and selfish person, wealth only turns you into a stingy and selfish person on a larger scale. Wealth does not create character, it reveals character. The world says, try to get rich, and then if there is time, try to be good, e.g., through philanthropy. Socrates inverts this. Part 2. But true wealth comes from virtue. This is the profound and often misunderstood part. Does Socrates mean that if you are a good person, you will automatically become rich in money? Not exactly. That is too shallow an interpretation. Epictetus was a slave. Socrates lived in poverty. Clearly, virtue does not guarantee material wealth. So what is the wealth Socrates is speaking of here? It is eudaimonia. It is the prosperity of the soul. It is the good life. Socrates and the entire Stoic philosophy are performing a revolutionary act. They are redefining wealth. The wealth of the world is money, houses assets. External, uncertain can be taken. The wealth of the philosopher is tranquility, ataraxia, inner joy, freedom from fear, and an integral soul, virtue, wisdom, courage, justice. Temperance is the sole cause and source of this true wealth. When you act wisely, you feel peace. When you act bravely, you overcome fear. When you act justly, you gain the clarity of a good conscience. Virtue is wealth. It is not the path to wealth, it is wealth. We have overworked ourselves to acquire preferred indifference, like money, and we have neglected the only good, which is virtue. A Stoic would say, pursue virtue, as if it is the only thing that matters, because it is. If along the way money comes as a natural byproduct of being disciplined, reliable, and wise, then accept it, use it virtuously, and be ready to return it without regret. But never confuse it with true wealth, because material wealth is bright and easy to count. Soul wealth is invisible. We spend our lives chasing the things that are measurable bank accounts, instead of the things that are truly valuable: tranquility. Only when we have acquired all those things and still feel empty, or when we lose it all and realize that we are still here, do we understand we were chasing the wrong kind of wealth. You are wealthier than you think. Right now you possess the faculty of choice, the ability to act virtuously. This is the startup capital for true wealth. Invest in it. It is the only asset that yields an eternal return. If the previous saying defined wealth, then this one gives us the mechanism to achieve it. This is one of the most profound and liberating paradoxes. Part 1. Contentment is natural wealth. What is contentment? Autarkia, self-sufficiency. It is the state where you need nothing external to feel whole. Why is it natural? Because it is the default state of a healthy reason. An animal is content when its natural needs, food, water, shelter, are met. Humans, as rational animals, are only content when our rational needs are met. That is when we live in accordance with virtue. Natural wealth is the wealth you achieve not by adding, but by not desiring. It is the realization that you already have enough right now. Part 2. Luxury is artificial poverty. This is a powerful blow against consumerism. What is luxury? It is anything that exceeds natural and reasonable needs. Why is it artificial poverty? Because every time you crave a luxury item,
an expensive watch, a fancy car, a bigger house. You have just created a new lack in your life. You, by your own thoughts, have just turned yourself into a poor person, one who needs something. The person with $1 million who feels they need $10 million to be happy is actually poorer than the person with $1,000 who feels completely content. Luxury is a trap. It is the hedonic treadmill. You get what you want, feel a moment of joy, and immediately begin to desire the next bigger thing. It is a poverty that can never be cured by materials. It is a disease of the soul, and the only medicine is a change in judgment. All of Stoic happiness lies in narrowing the gap between what you have and what you want. The world tries to close this gap by helping you get more. This is an endless and exhausting game. The Stoic closes this gap by wanting less. How? By only desiring what is already in your control. Virtue your choices. Since you always have the power of choice, you always have what you want. You achieve 100% contentment instantly. We are assaulted 24/7 by a global $1 trillion advertising machine. Its sole job is to create artificial poverty. It tells you you are not enough, your skin is not good enough, your car is not fast enough, your phone is obsolete. We are raised to believe that contentment is synonymous with laziness, a lack of ambition. We confuse ambition to have more things with the true goal to become better. It takes decades of accumulation, decades of fatigue from debt and comparison, before we realize that freedom lies not in owning everything, but in not being owned by anything. You can become infinitely wealthy in this very moment, not by checking your bank account, but by checking your desires. Look around. Take a breath. You have air to breathe. You have reason to think. You have this moment to choose virtue. You are already a millionaire of the things that truly matter. Recognize your natural wealth and refuse to play the game of artificial poverty. This is a warning against the greatest thief of time, meaningless busyness. Note that Socrates does not warn against an active or productive life. He warns against a busy life. Ask Holia. The active/purposeful life is a life led by reason, logos, and virtue, arete. You act from an internal purpose. You are the master of your time. The busy life is a life controlled by externals, the inbox, notifications, meetings, the demands of others. You are a slave of time. You react. You do not act. Barrenness is a precise image. It is a field that is constantly plowed, noisy, and dusty, but upon which no meaningful seed ever grows. a busy life can be full of activity, yet completely empty of meaning, of self-examination, of soul improvement. Busyness is the most common opiate of the modern age. It is how we flee from the great question, what am I living for? The Stoics clearly distinguished between doing many things and doing the right thing. The Seneca wrote in On the Shortness of Life that it is not that we have little time, but that we waste so much. We waste it on busyness, worrying about what others think, part for reputation, chasing things we do not need, and being consumed by trivialities. A Stoic is never busy. They are purposeful. They apply the dichotomy of control to their schedule. They focus their energy on what is important and controllable, which is to say their choices and virtuous actions. They reserve a planned indifference for what is urgent but unimportant. Busyness is the sign of a chaotic mind. Tranquility is the sign of an ordered mind. Because hustle culture glorifies busyness, busyness is treated as a status symbol. I am very busy is another way of saying I am very important. We fear silence. In silence, the difficult Socratic questions arise. So we fill every gap with noise, with work, with distraction. Only when we collapse from burnout, or when we retire and face the empty silence, do we look back and realize we have been running at full speed on a treadmill, noisy, exhausting, but having gone nowhere. Have the courage to not be busy. Have the courage to have empty spaces in your schedule. This is not laziness. It is the necessary space for the examined life to take place. Ask every day, is this activity improving my soul, or is it just filling time? Be ruthless in protecting your time for the great work. If the previous saying concerned how we waste time, this one concerns how we use energy to affect change. This is one of the most profound psychological lessons. Most of us attempt to change by fighting the old. I will stop smoking. I will stop being angry. I will stop being lazy. What is the result? We fail. Why? Because our entire attention remains fixed on the negative habit. We are energizing the very thing we wish to destroy. Fighting the old also means fighting reality. We waste energy lamenting the past, complaining about our boss, being angry at the economy, or arguing with what has already occurred. This is a war that can never be won. Building the new is a complete redirection of energy. Instead of stopping laziness, focus on building the habit of 10 minutes of discipline each morning. Instead of fighting the past, focus on building a virtuous response right now. This saying is a perfect encapsulation of Stoic practice. The old, all that lies outside our control. The past, the mistakes of others, external events. The new, all that lies within our control. Our judgments, choices, and actions right here, right now. The Stoic practices amor fati, love of fate. They do not waste a single ounce of energy fighting the old, fighting what has already happened. They accept it completely. Then they pour 100% of their energy into building the new, namely their inner citadel. They build responses that are wise, courageous, and temperate. This is the difference between a victim, one obsessed with the old, and a philosopher, one who architects the new, because fighting provides immediate gratification. Complaining and blaming give us the sense of being right. We become addicted to the feeling of moral indignation. Building is difficult, slow, and demands patience. It lacks the drama of a battle. We spend the first half of our lives trying to change the world to change other people. Only after repeated failures do we wearily realize that the only place we have true power to build is within ourselves. Stop fighting reality. Stop wasting your precious energy arguing with the old. Accept what is, and then ask the most powerful question, now what will I build? You cannot change the past, but you have total power to architect your response to it. That is the secret of all true change. And this, my friend, is the final lesson. The lesson we all try to ignore until it is too late. Socrates, in his Apology, faced his death sentence not with fear, but with reason. He said to fear death is nothing other than to think oneself wise when one is not for. It is to think one knows what one does not know, a direct violation of knowing that you know nothing. He argued logically, we do not know what death is, so why judge it as evil? He posed two possibilities. Death is a dreamless sleep, a permanent unconsciousness. In that case, it is a blessing, for it is a release from all pain, all anxiety. Death is a migration, a journey of the soul to another place. In that case, it is a great blessing, at least for him, for he could continue his work, questioning Homer, Hesiod, and other great figures. In either case, reason did not permit him to fear it. The Stoics took this logic and turned it into a core practice. Memento mori. Remember that you must die.
They did not contemplate death to become morbid, they contemplated death to become alive. The fear of death is the root of all vice. We are greedy, chasing luxury. Part 5. Because we fear we will die before we enjoy enough. We are cowardly because we fear death more than we fear living disgracefully. We are anxious, busy. Part 6. Because we fear not finishing everything before we die. Death to a Stoic is the demon that vanishes when you look it directly in the eye. It is an indifferent. It is not good, not bad. It is simply a natural process. When you accept death, you are liberated. you have nothing left to lose. And when you have nothing left to lose, you are finally free to do the right thing without fear of the consequences. Because we are biologically programmed to fear annihilation. Our entire culture is a vast conspiracy to deny death. We hide the elderly, worship youth, and create endless distractions. We live as if we are immortal. We postpone living, postpone improving ourselves. Only when death knocks through illness, old age, or loss do we awaken. And in the panic of our final moments, we realize a terrible truth. We are not afraid of death. We are afraid that we never truly lived. Do not wait. Use death as a compass. Memento mori. Remember you will die. And let that awareness kindle the flame. Part 2 for you. Because you will die, love fully right now. Because you will die, act courageously right now. Because you will die, stop wasting time on trivialities right now. Death is not the tragedy. A life lived in fear is the tragedy. Death is a blessing because the awareness of it is the very thing that liberates us to live a meaningful life. These are the lessons that most people learn too late. Why? Because they are hard. They require you to go against biological instinct, against social pressure, against everything this noisy world preaches. The world says, look outward. Socrates says, look inward. The world says, accumulate. Socrates says, cultivate. The world says, fear death. Socrates says, fear a life not rightly lived. The path of the philosopher is not an easy one, but it is the only path that leads to freedom, tranquility, ataraxia, and the prosperity of the soul, eudaimonia. You have just heard a profound analysis. Do not just hear it, live by it. Begin today. Examine your life. Know thyself. Live rightly. The great work awaits. And this, my friend, is the final lesson. The lesson we all try to ignore until it is too late. Socrates, in his Apology, faced his death sentence not with fear, but with reason. He said, to fear death is nothing other than to think oneself wise when one is not, for it is to think one knows what one does not know, a direct violation of knowing that you know nothing. He argued logically, we do not know what death is, so why judge it as evil? He posed 2 possibilities. Death is a dreamless sleep, a permanent unconsciousness. In that case, it is a blessing, for it is a release from all pain, all anxiety. Death is a migration, a journey of the soul to another place. In that case, it is a great blessing, at least for him, for he could continue his work, questioning Homer, Hesiod, and other great figures. In
either case, reason did not permit him to fear it. The Stoics took this logic and turned it into a core practice. Memento mori. Remember that you must die.
They did not contemplate death to become morbid, they contemplated death to become alive. The fear of death is the root of all vice. We are greedy, chasing luxury. Part 5. Because we fear we will die before we enjoy enough. We are cowardly because we fear death more than we fear living disgracefully. We are anxious, busy. Part 6. Because we fear not finishing everything before we die. Death to a Stoic is the demon that vanishes when you look it directly in the eye. It is an indifferent. It is not good, not bad. It is simply a natural process. When you accept death, you are liberated. You have nothing left to lose. And when you have nothing left to lose, you are finally free to do the right thing without fear of the consequences. Because we are biologically programmed to fear annihilation, our entire culture is a vast conspiracy to deny death. We hide the elderly, worship youth, and create endless distractions. We live as if we are immortal. We postpone living, postpone improving ourselves. Only when death knocks through illness, old age, or loss do we awaken. And in the panic of our final moments, we realize a terrible truth. We are not afraid of death. We are afraid that we never truly lived. Do not wait. Use death as a compass. Memento mori. Remember you will die. And let that awareness kindle the flame. Part 2 for you. Because you will die, love fully. Right now. Because you will die, act courageously. Right now. Because you will die, stop wasting time on trivialities. Right now. Death is not the tragedy. A life lived in fear is the tragedy. Death is a blessing because the awareness of it is the very thing that liberates us to live a meaningful life. These are the lessons that most people learn too late. Why? Because they are hard. They require you to go against biological instinct, against social pressure, against everything this noisy world preaches. The world says, look outward. Socrates says, look inward. The world says, accumulate. Socrates says, cultivate. The world says, fear death. Socrates says, fear a life not rightly lived. The path of the philosopher is not an easy one, but it is the only path that leads to freedom, tranquility, ataraxia, and the prosperity of the soul, eudaimonia. You have just heard a profound analysis. Do not just hear it, live by it. Begin today. Examine your life. Know thyself. Live rightly. The great work awaits. The world teaches you to chase more success, more comfort, more approval. But the Stoics remind us nothing outside you can complete you. True strength is not in control of others, but in mastery of yourself. So tonight, before the noise returns, pause. Ask yourself, did I live rightly today? Did I act with reason or just react? Every honest answer is a step toward freedom. The kind of freedom no money or status can buy. Remember, you are not your possessions, not your failures, not even your past. You are your choices here, now in this very breath. Live with clarity, act with virtue, and let your soul, not the world, define your worth. This is the Stoic way. Until next time, stay grounded, stay awake,